Aloha everyone, my name is Alessandro and this is the Temple of Surf, the podcast. We'll give you full access to the best surfers, skaters, shapers, surfboard collectors, shop owners in the world. Discover with me their stories, the greatest successes, amazing behind the scenes, and much more. This episode is brought to you by Yogi Pipe, a line of apparel created with eco-friendly materials by artisans from all over the world. Let's discover more about them and their collection on www.yogipipe.surf. Hello everyone and welcome to the 16th episode of the Temple of Surf podcast second season. Today with us is California shaping legend Hank Warner. Let's discover more about him, his 53 years career and much more. Hello Hank and welcome to the show. Where are you today?
I'm in San Diego, California, USA.
Today we're going to talk about your amazing career, your future projects, surfboard. But the first question that I have for you is, in your opinion, what is the most important thing in surfing?
The most important thing in surfing right now, I think, is preserving the culture of what was created in surfing, such as, soul, handcrafted surfboards, proper etiquette in the water, and respect for the legends and people that helped create the sport and the industry.
I definitely agree with you, right? Is what is behind the surfing with Aloha, right?
Yes.
If I have to ask you about what is the most important thing in shaping, what would you tell me?
Well, for me, the most important thing in shaping is to actually give the customer what they're seeking, whether they know it for sure or not. To always listen to them, find out where they're going, look at where they've been. I always ask to see what they have been writing, even if they say they don't like it. At least I have a reference point as to where not to go for them. And so the most important part is to really keep them stoked on surfing by giving them a surfboard that betters their experience.
Yeah, and I like what you're saying. Even if they don't know what they want, the shaper
right.
must know, right?
Well, I always think that if you're asking somebody for directions to get somewhere, it's always good to ask somebody that's been there before, that tells you how to get there. So in my 60-something years of being in the surf culture, there's pretty much most paths I've been down, so at least I can tell them from experience where they're going.
And you think this is achievable only through experience, like, or maybe, I spoke with a lot of different and famous and legendary shapers also from San Diego, and there are like two ways of seeing things. Like from the younger one, they might say like, okay, as I am a surfer, I'm able to create surfboards that are good for my clients because I know what to do, how to improve my shapes because I'm surfing. While if I talk about legendary shapers like you, that you shape a lot of surfboards, the answer I get, it's totally different. It's like I have to get to know the client and the style, how he surf, and then a great shaper always is able to produce a magic surfboard for a surfer, like a surfboard that will really improve the surf.
Yeah, well, each surfer is an individual. They surf different ways. They have different experience levels, and they have different desires of what they want to accomplish in their surfing. So, whether they want to be able to stand up quicker or catch the wave sooner or, do radical maneuvers, you have to at least kind of know what they're aiming at by virtue of where they're surfing. Now, a younger surfer that shapes boards can make boards that he can ride really well or she can ride really well, but still it's the customer's experience, not your experience of what works. But I always think that most surfboards, given the proper flotation and outline for where they want to ride. It's just like driving someone else's car. You step on their brake, and it feels different than your own car until your muscle tone gets used to it. So I think most surfboards people can adapt to, but you want them to go in the direction that they want to go to adapt to. You don't want to force them to go a different direction just because the board's different than what they're asking. So that's why I like to know what the customer is seeking in a new surfboard.
Yeah. Listening to the customer is so important.
Yes.
And you most probably you listen to like so many, because I read over internet that you shaped over 30,000 boards in your career, and an amazing number.
That was good to an extent at Gordon Smith Surfboards in the late 70s and 80s, where I was doing like over 100 a week, 100 a month, I mean, and got a lot of practice on the science of how to break down a blank to get to where you want to make it. So it's some shapers can only shape one particular way. They've got a formula that they follow. I think that if you're doing custom orders, you have to be pretty flexible to change, because like the 8 boards I'm doing this week, they're all different sizes for all different age groups, all different genders, and all different weights, and all different surfing ability. So you really need to know how to kind of ferret through all that.
Definitely. What was the first surfboard that you ever shaped? Do you remember that one?
Oh, I remember that one, and it turned out it was a coral glass job. It was the thing is, when I was 10 and 11, I was able to go into a surfboard factory with my future brother-in-law, Billy Castor, who married my sister. And in 1961, 62, actually 60, he had a factory, so I could watch people shaping boards. And then just by virtue of living in Pacific Beach, I could watch Mike Henson shape. I could watch Billy Castor shape. So I had a lot of experience of watching great shapers shape boards. So when after about 6 or 7 years of that, I wanted to do it on my own, because boards were changing to the shorter boards, and there wasn't really any definite way to make a short board at that time in the transition from long boards to short boards. So it was a perfect time to start trying to learn how to shape, first just to make the board even, and then to make it designed the way you want it. So the first one I made was like a 6-7. I put a reverse fin on it. It was a single fin. It was a hard diamond tail, and I could ride it, but it definitely wasn't an advanced surfboard at the time.
Okay, that's cool. That's a great memory indeed. And what, in your opinion, was the defining moment of your career?
In 1970, I traveled to Australia. I just turned like 20 years old, 21. And like I said, I'd seen people shape surfboards. I'd shaped a few. And I was in Australia working at the Gordon Smith Surfboard factory in Cronulla. And their boards were a lot different than the California boards, Hawaii boards. So I shaped myself a board while I was there. And it turned out that the sander, his name was Kirby, he said, "Oh, mate, I'll take one of those." So that was my first custom order.
Oh, wow.
To actually try to duplicate my board. Well, 5 years ago, I was in Noosa, Australia, speaking to Dave Wilson, who was the laminator at the factory at the time. And I asked him about the sander Kirby. And he told me some news that he had passed away, but that his son, Josh Kerr, was doing well on the tour. So I was happy to find out my first custom order was for the father of professional surfer Josh Kerr.
Wow, amazing!
And so when I came back from Australia in '71, that was when the surfboard industry was pretty depressed, and the major surfboard factories couldn't really produce a board cheap enough for people that could make them on their own by just buying the materials. So they tried to make a lower cost board. So I got hired by Billy Castor at Challenger Surfboards to shape those boards. So that kind of got me going. And in 1972 or 3, I used to be a carpenter in the day and a shaper at night. But in 73, it became my only occupation. I've only just shaped surfboards since 1973 as a job.
Great. Thanks a lot for sharing. I guess, you know, you are, I don't know if you can tell me that, but there is a sense of that you accomplish something if the surfboard that you are shaping for the father, then they go for the son, or the grandfather to the father and to the son, right? If you are able to shape for generation of people, right?
Oh yes. Well, you know, there are people that come in, like the latest thing in the last 15 years, everyone's gone for the quote retro age of trying to duplicate boards pre-tri-fin.
Yeah.
Well, I still have templates from the 70s and the 80s, and they were great templates at the time. So it's pretty easy for me to put down on a blank the outline that is for that time that they're trying to recapture, where the newer, inexperienced shaper is just kind of creating it from what they think it looked like or what they perceive boards were like. But I've actually got the templates that were really good at the time to just lay down the lines. So yeah, we get grandpas, grandsons, granddaughters, all kinds of different people that come down through the years, and you build a clientele of loyal customers, and it's pretty good being kind of in the retired age, but still wanting to work every day, to have a clientele that no advertising, you still have plenty of work.
Yeah, amazing. And if you had to choose the best achievement of your career, which one would you choose?
The best achievement of my shaping career, I would say two things. The first was working at Gordon Smith, where the production was like 200 boards a week.
Wow.
And under the tutelage of Paul Berderi, who was a great shaper, but he was the production manager, he taught me so many things about how to break down a surfboard, kind of the science of surfboard building. So that helped me a lot in, not spending all day to shape a board, do it quickly. That was kind of the way to give yourself a raise is to shape a board quicker for the same price and get it right there. The second thing was in 1977, being hooked up with Terry Fitzgerald, who at the time was probably the most soulful surfer in the world, made his own boards and rode all kinds of waves and had unique surfboard designs. He gave me all his templates and showed me his designs, and that kind of put me on the radar of a lot of advanced surfers that wanted something from Terry Fitzgerald's quiver that I had access to do. So those are probably the two major things back in the day that kind of propelled me further into the career.
And in your career, you had as we said before, you shaped over 30,000 surfboard, and I'm guessing you receive also some weird requests in terms of shaping unusual surfboards, right?
I've had some unusual requests, but I've shaped boards for legless surfers. I've shaped boards for other disabled surfers that had different needs. Their weight distribution on the boards were differently distributed. So that's one thing that's always a challenge. But the other thing is, people would come and ask me, want a particular type of surfboard that I thought was kind of on the weird side. I would ask them to justify why they're seeking that particular design. And if they come up with an answer that definitely defines that that's what they want, then it's something I would do. But a lot of times, if they're kind of going the wrong way, I can kind of steer them to something that's a little bit more what they're seeking.
Yeah. At the end is your name on the surfboard, right? So is their surfboard,
yes.
But is also your legacy in a certain way, right?
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, well, I've had people go, "Oh, I saw one of your boards. You shape boards too thick for me." And I say, "Whose board did you see?" And they tell me they saw a guy that weighed 250 pounds that wanted a 6'6". I said, "Well, of course that board was too thick for you. It was made for a guy that weighs 100 pounds more than you."
Yeah.
So sometimes they see your name on a board and they kind of label you as that's what type of surfboard you make. But in my shop, I have all kind of different sizes and shapes. So when people come in, they can visually look at what I've done all different, so they know that I'm flexible enough to do anything, not just one way.
What is your favorite board to shape today? Like, do you have a favorite one, or for you, like all of them are somehow the same?
Well, it's kind of like in bowling, you can bowl a 300 game. You can always shoot for the perfect score in bowling.
Yeah.
But in surfboards, it's each board is its own. You're trying to get 100% of it correct, and so every board is pretty much my favorite to shape because it's a new challenge. It's not monotonous or routine and just going through the motions. But lately, I've taken a mini Simmons design that was kind of recreated in San Diego and kind of turned it into what I call a power hole, which is a board that's displaced and wide like a mini Simmons, but a lot more maneuverable with the fin setup and the tail outline to make it more all around friendly for all different conditions. Because in San Diego, we have point waves, reef waves, beach waves, jetty waves, high tide spots, low tide spots. So you want a board that's a little bit more all around than like say just a mini Simmons. So I've kind of adapted that as my latest board that I've been working on the most. And they usually come out really short, between 5 and 6 foot.
Okay. And if you had to give an advice, a suggestion to a young shaper, which would that be?
Well, probably just learn how to be consistent in what you're shaping so that when you want to alter something, you are altering it off of something that's kind of consistently the same. So that way you can tell the difference between the former board and the newer board. So, luckily, new shapers now, the blank and the machines can make the board so close, you're really not really creating something out of a blank. The rockers are already in there, and it's pretty easy to do it. But like when I started, it was just a big square block of foam, and you could tell each shaper's personality, how they carved those blanks into their boards. You could tell who shaped the board. Now, majority of the boards come out looking so much the same because the blanks are all pretty much standardized with the rocker patterns and the thickness distribution, depending on what length board and style of board you're making. So they are a little bit ahead of the game than when most people started back in the early days of shaping boards. But really, just realize that surfboard shaping, you never bowl a 300 game. You're always seeking to do better and better. So just keep improving and pay attention to what you're doing and go from there.
Yeah, definitely, I agree with you. Consistency is the key of the game, and also I think consistency is it guarantees you a clientele, to come back always to you, right? Because they know that what they buy, it's has value, and is not just like luck or something.
Right. Well, the customer nowadays that are been surfing for years and years and years, they know what they want. So they'll come in with a surfboard and say, I want it a little thicker, or I want it a little thinner, or I want less rocker or more rocker. So unless you could actually get to square one with what they have and alter that, you're not really going to give them the change that they're seeking. So yeah, the consistency helps. The ability to replicate something you've done and then alter it based on what the customer is asking to change in his new board.
And then boards that are made by computer, blanks that are made by computer or cut by the computer, by the laser, are totally a different ball game, right? There's like is nothing to do with the art of hand shaping, right?
Well, the thing about computers, there's a couple of factors. One, now if you want to create a board over and over and over again that's exactly the same, well, the computer shape is a pretty good way to go. However, in my situation, I really never shaped the exact same board in a month. So it would be ludicrous for me to have that many different kind of files on a computer, because every board's going to be different. And it's really hard to change a board, a blank that's been computerized, because the way the machine is, if you try to make it shorter, it's really hard to kind of blend it all back in. But the thing about computer shaping is, to me, it's kind of like somebody that goes fishing and throws a big net out and catches way more fish than he can consume. And I just think that it's not fair for some of these big companies to just make so many of their boards and flood the market because they can reproduce them on a machine, where they should just make boards for the customer's demands. And that way there's enough fish in the sea for everyone to make a career, have a job. So I'm not anti-computer, because there are some designs that I do that need that consistency from old models, but it's not something I would do every day.
Yeah, definitely. There should be like maybe less surfboards around, but higher quality, right? So.
The quality's there, but it's just kind of just make the boards for the consumer as they ask for it, as opposed to, like back in the day when the computers started coming on in the 80s, I was just one little guy shaping surfboards, and I would say sell 6 boards to a dealer 3,000 miles away. And it's because they would ask one big company for 12 boards and get 8 boards. They'd ask another big company for 15 boards and get 10 boards. They'd ask 6 from me, and they would get them. Well, they would sell my boards, and they'd sell the others. Then when the computers came along, they'd ask the one big company for 12 boards, and they'd get 20. They'd ask another company for 8 boards and get 12. So then they're like, well, we got all these boards. We don't need boards from that little guy. So they kind of cut into my market. And because mine would sell, because they would be an even playing field. But when they were able to flood the market with the highly advertised brands, it just kind of cut out stuff that guys like myself did. The low volume, handcrafted, one board at a time kind of consciousness.
Yeah. What are your future projects? There is something particular you're working on?
Well, I've been doing a lot of EPS boards, extruded polystyrene for lightness. Been working on some of those. Really, at 70 years old, it's just mostly going to work for about 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day, like going to the gym to stay in shape. Just, make one board at a time. People ask me how's business, and I always say, well, I'm not doing as many boards as I can do, but I'm doing more boards than I'd like to do. Because I'd like to just keep it, not let people wait, try to, service them right away. Some people say, oh, it took 8 months to get a board from one particular shaper. Well, I try to do it on a weekly basis. Just every one I have for the week, start them and finish them that week. And at the most, it's about 10 a week, but the average is about 4 to 6 boards a week, which is pretty comfortable. Yeah. And you can keep track of the boards easier in the glass shop than when you're just making so many, like off a computer. You don't know where they've all gone and where they are, at what state. And if some have color, they take longer and they get lost in the shuffle, or some get done too quickly and you don't have the ones that go with them. So my future plans is just to keep it low inventory and, make every board count for each individual. Yeah. They're all pretty much just per person that order the board, not for stock shop consumptions.
Yeah, we go back to the consistency, right? Like this, keeping the production low, you can keep a very high quality, and you leave your client happy. I think that's the most important thing, right? So, we're gonna finish our interview with a short Q&A session, question and answer. So please answer the first thing that comes out to your mind, okay?
Okay.
The best surfboard that you ever ridden?
Best surfboards I ever ridden? Boy, I would say it was a Skip Fry egg. that he made for me in 1969. I know it's a short answer, but I was riding it and it kind of felt okay. Then Skip got on the board, came in, knocked the fin off, moved it up a half an inch. Then the board became magic. So it was a 6/8 fried egg.
Amazing.
Probably the best board I ever had.
Your favorite shaper?
Boy, my favorite shaper. Well, I've got like 3 or 4 people that I deal with all the time. Wayne Rich, Bob Mitzvin, Stu Kenson. Those guys are my go-to guys for info. But I'd have to say my favorite shaper is Skip Fry because he's so consistent and so focused on just doing what he does and not worrying about anybody else's designs. So it's got to be Skip Fry.
Definitely. I agree with you. And also, I interviewed Stu Kenson a couple of weeks ago, and he said the same. So,
all right, cool.
Definitely a big admiration for Skip Fry. Personal question: your favorite song?
My favorite song is really not a song; it's an instrumental piece. 1964, Paul Butterfield Blues Band, East West, features Elvin Bishop and Mike Bloomfield on the guitars. It's about 15 minutes long.
Nice.
And whenever I really need to get some energy going, I turn that on full blast. And I can't believe that song was recorded 50 some odd years ago, and it's still just the best tune I've ever heard.
Amazing. I will give a listen tonight for sure. I'll take 15 minutes. I'll follow your suggestion. Your favorite surf spot?
My favorite surf spot, in over the years, I've surfed a lot of places, but I think I've had the most fun at San Miguel in Baja California. That was a place you could drive to, sleep on the beach, get up and surf. And when it was good, it was a very good wave, easy to ride. And that's probably my favorite spot I've ever surfed. Nowadays, it's Pacific Beach Point, right down from my house. I like that in the wintertime when it breaks. It's still a wave that's pretty localized. Not too many people venture out there because they're afraid of the locals, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. And I have the most fun there now.
Fantastic. Your favorite surfer?
My favorite surfer, boy. I'd have to go back to Terry Fitzgerald and what he did, surfing wise, soulful wise, and style wise.
Amazing. And the last question is a little bit unusual, but we ask for everybody and has nothing to do with surf or shaping. We want to know your best relationship advice.
My best relationship advice?
Yes, has nothing to do with surf.
Well, I'd say your best relationship advice is to realize that it's a learning experience, and when you come up against a brick wall, your gut feeling is to bail out and seek a new experience. But you got to realize that you're going to run into the same thing again with another person. So it's better to just keep the history going and learn and compromise and be flexible with the person you're with. And at least you know that it's just getting more and more fine-tuned instead of starting all over with a new relationship. So I've been with my wife 27 years, and I plan on doing it till the day I die.
It's commitment, right? It's
yes, commitment.
Yeah, it's something that it's very rare, but it's so powerful.
Yeah, when you're younger and you come up against something, you want to just sort of run from it and go someplace else. But when you get older, you realize all that's going to happen is you're going to run into the same thing someplace else. So you might as well try to live through it and grow as a person.
Yeah. And definitely you can also apply this commitment, let's say, theory also to shaping and surfboard, like we said before. To end shape board, it takes commitment, time, patience, and if you shape them via computer, it's easier, much easier, right? And take maybe less commitment. And so for all those, let's say, end shapers, the commitment is also very, very helpful, right? Essential, actually.
Well, the thing is, every surfer is looking for that magic board. That's why you get a new surfboard. And if you get a computerized board, they're all going to be the same. If it wasn't magic, you're just recreating the unmagic over and over. But you're always hopeful that the next board you get is going to be that magic board. And so that's kind of the mystique of hand shaping, especially for the customer, because what they're looking for is that magic board. And hopefully it's inside that blank that you're using to make their board.
Hopefully, definitely. Thank you, Hank, for being on the show with me today, and I look forward to talk to you very soon. I really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you so much for asking me to be involved in your podcast, and my best to you. Thanks for being patient, trying to hunt me down, get me on the phone.
I made it happen. We made it happen together.
Good.
Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon. Have a nice day. Bye-bye. Hi, it's me again. I hope you enjoyed our today's episode. If you want to know more about us, please follow www.thetempleofsurf.com and all our social media. Mahalo!